Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Demko AD-20S, or Slim. This is a USA Demko, not the Taiwan-made AD-20.5. There are a lot of different versions of the AD-20. There's a lot of different prices. There's a lot of different materials. It's really confusing. I'm going to do my best to explain, basically all there is to know, or at least a lot of it in this video. So it's going to be a review, and then there's going to be a bit of a discussion. So this is going to be a long video, so buckle up. Thanks so much to Keith for sending this in for me to take a look at. I really do appreciate the opportunity to take a look at this guy. Thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. No, I don't get to keep this. This goes back to the owner as soon as I'm done with it. I have to keep saying that because there are always people who are confused. Overall length of this guy, coming in the same length as the other full-size ones. It's about 8.5 inches, and the blade length is about 3.5 inches with a 3¼ inch cutting edge. Let's do some size comparisons. We're going to do a bunch up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and Model 2. So you can see there, big knife, right? How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? About the same size overall as the PM2, a little longer than the Para 3. Last but not least, let's do the, for these, we're going to do a few more after this. Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. So there you go. Now let's do some size comparisons with other Demko knives. So what we're looking at here is a non-slotted shark's foot, which I believe at the moment the Slims are all non-slotted, but if you're watching this video in the future, even if it's only slightly, they may have decided to. In fact, I fully imagine that it is an inevitability that these Slims, if they are not being made right now with slots, will eventually be made with slots. Anyways, this is a full-size, full-thickness Demko AD-20, MG AD-20, meaning machine ground and not custom. Yes, we will go over all those terms here in just a moment. Full thickness, right? This is a G10 NCPM 20CV. You can see that they are exactly the same. Here it is up against the same MG AD-20 except in titanium. And once again, we have exactly the same thing. The camera's at an angle, so the one that's on the bottom is looking like it's the biggest, right? Whichever one is on the bottom is always going to look like it is the largest knife. That's just the way that the camera works, and that way I'm not shooting a glare right back up into your guys' face. So anyways, it's the exact same. How about up against the Taiwan-made, the one that I think people are going to confuse it with? This is the Demko AD-20.5, which is also a thinner knife in blade, but, versus the other AD-20 models. But the frame scales and liners are thinner on the 20.5. So this guy, this smaller one, is the Taiwan-made one. This is still US, right? I think we have AD-20.5 and AD-20S, and S, unfortunately, when you're scrolling through the internet really fast, kind of looks like a 5. And then on top of that, we have all these different materials and different sizes. And we have the MGs, and we got the customs, and oh my gosh, it's a mess. So the smaller one, which is the one that made everybody mad because it's always the only variant that comes, stock, that we have the Grivery or FRN, and then we have AUS 10A for the steel. Unless you pick it up from Knife Center, they did an exclusive in K110, which is Bowler's version of D2. The overall length of the shorter guy here is 7.5 inches with a 3-inch blade. So there you go. All right, real quick here, let's get this part over with. The different versions of the AD-20 that are currently available, I have many different versions of it here, so I can show you guys. First off, again, Taiwan-made AD-20.5. These are about $150. Then we have a US variant, but still machine-made AD-20 Slim or AD-20S. These come in Grivery, and they come in G10. At the time of this video, I believe they only come in D2, but I feel like it's inevitable that we will see additional blade steels, additional blade styles, additional finishes, etc. This one right here, I'm going to tell you guys early, came in at $350. Oh my gosh, I feel compelled to leave a comment about how outraged I am with the price. Hold on, there's a lot more in this video that's going to make you super duper mad, so just just wait. That way you don't have to edit your comment a million times if you really want to let me know, right? But yeah, so the Slims come in Grivery or G10. The G10 ones come in at $350, and the Grivery ones probably a little bit less. Honestly, I don't know for sure. I would guess about $300. Then you have the Demko MG AD-20 in full thickness, which I can tell you guys right now. We'll go ahead and do a blade stock thickness measurement. These full thickness big boys come in at, I think they're about 180 thousandths or so. Yeah, almost right. Yeah, exactly 180 thousandths. And then the MG AD-20 is going to come in, the slimmer guy, the AD-20S is going to come in at about 125 thousandths or 130. It's something like that. I think it's 125. Whatever the official measurement, whatever it says on Demko's website is accurate and not my crappy calipers. Anyways, this is still MG, meaning machine ground, but made in the United States. And these guys come in G10 and a steel like 20CV, 3V, crew wear, S45VN, Magna Cut, $425. Unless you're picking it up in Grivery, in which case it drops down to about $350. Then you have the Demko AD-20 MG Titanium in full thickness. Same blade stock thickness as this guy. These guys start at $625. But if you go to eBay, you'll be very confused because you'll see them for like $1,000 to $2,000. Don't do that. Don't buy them for that. That's crazy. Then sometimes you'll see different variants of these knives on custom retailers that sell custom knives, and you'll think that they're jacking the prices way up because they're also coming in at like $1,000 or $1,500, and these are past listings. Likely, those are the custom variants, which means it's the same thing except the blades are hand ground by Andrew Demko or John Demko. I'm not sure if they both do it. And yeah, that's definitely going to cost more money. It just is. So those are the custom variants. And you can usually tell because the machine ground variants are usually tumbled or tumbled DLC or whatever. And the custom variants are there's a belt satin finish on them. And they are, a lot of times they're compound ground, right? There is also a custom compact variant of the Demko AD-20. The only version of it that exists right now is in custom form, and it is the same full thickness but shorter. I actually have a video on that if you want to check it out. Yeah, that's what there is at the time of this video. Do I think that there will eventually be G10 versions of the 20.5? Yes, there are already. I think that's already in the works. I don't know for sure. I just think so. Will there be titanium scales for these? Yeah, I think aftermarket companies are already working on titanium scales of the 20.5. I don't know if they'll do a production 20.5 or Taiwan version of this knife in titanium. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Demko AD-20 Slims. They already have G10 and Grivery. Are they going to do different blade steels? I'd really like a different blade steel because D2 is kind of crazy for $350. I get it. It's American manufacturing, and whether we like it or not, whether we accept it or not, this knife is expensive to make. It just is. It's gonna be that way, right? We can kick and scream and cry and complain all we want. That's what it is. Do I think there's going to be different blade materials? Absolutely. I absolutely do. Do I think they're going to do a titanium slim? Wouldn't surprise me. Are they going to bring this size of knife to the USA, right? A lot of people say, why don't they just do the 20.5 in the USA and charge $150 to $200 and make give it a better blade steel, right? That'd be great, wouldn't it? G10 version of the 20.5 in S45VN steel, get it for maybe $200. Yeah, that would be great. Unfortunately, I don't have a magic lamp, and neither does Andrew Demko. That's just something that we're going to have to understand. It's not going to happen. This is the US version, right? And it's still expensive. It's just going to be, right? So that's what I mean, I know this is going to spark a, angry conversation and all that, but do I think we might get a US version that's a little bit smaller, compact? Maybe. It's going to be expensive, right? The price of these knives does not only have to do with the materials, but rather how much they cost to make. The Demko company is a small operation. It is not a high volume operation. It does not generate income based on volume like Spyderco or Kershaw, right? It is not the same thing. And last I checked, it wasn't a charity. So a lot of these just cost what they cost. So that's what I know right now, and those are my opinions on it. You can obviously have your own opinion. But yeah, I do think we're going to be getting different blade steels and different finishes, slots, right? Different, obviously this is the shark's foot. I think we'll probably get a whole bunch of different blade shapes, because on these guys we've got clip points, or some people call them drop points. I think there's actually a drop point, right? So yeah, I think, it seems to be kind of getting to the point where it's kind of close to what Hinderer's doing, right? Rick Hinderer has the XM18 3-inch, the 3.5 inch, the 4-inch, or the XM24. They've got slims of each of them. They've got fatties of 2 of them. They have production with their collaborations, right? They don't really have the same type of, Taiwan kind of thing going on, right? Like this. But yeah, I think that he's trying to make as many different versions of this and, make as many people happy as possible. Unfortunately, as we all know, because we've all been a part of the internet for a very long time, that's impossible. There will always be angry people, and they will always be convinced that their perspective is the most important and that they are the ones that are the most severely impacted by not getting what they want for the price that they want. That's the world we live in, right? And I know a lot of people say that's easy for you to say. You have a titanium one, and you have a G10 one, and you have a 20.5. Well, fair point. Maybe it is easier for me to say it. But I wanted to get this information out there just for people who are looking for it, trying to understand what they were looking at, right? So there you go. Ergonomically, this thing has very similar Oh, you know what? Before we do that, I'll let you know that the hardware is all exactly the same as the larger, US guys. I got one of the older titanium ones, so it has this domed off hardware, but my G10 version is the same hardware, right? So we have I believe it is let's check real quick. I don't want to get it wrong. Is it a T10 in here? Yeah, T10 on the pivot, and we have T8 for the hardware, which is great. If you take these things apart, I would do it under a piece of Tupperware, because the spring that is inside of this shark lock is going to go flying across the room. In fact, that's exactly what happened when I took apart this guy. It's the same with the big guys. So just be careful, right? Even if you think you've got it under control, that spring will prove you wrong. The weight between them, I think that's probably something else that we should do. So I don't have all the versions here, but the 20.5 weighs 3.53 ounces. The AD-20S in G10 weighs, 5.57 ounces. I have no idea what the Grivery one weighs, probably fairly similar. The G10 version weighs 6 ounces, so really not that much more than this guy. About half an ounce more, right? That's what you're looking at, 6 ounces. The titanium one weighs 7.23 ounces. As far as thickness goes, let's compare them so that people have that information. The AD-20.5 Slim and the the AD-20 Slim and the AD-20.5, even I'm getting messed up. It's actually quite a bit thicker, right? Let's put it up against the MG AD-20 with the full thickness blade. The MG AD-20 is definitely a little bit thicker. Let's put it up against the full thickness titanium one. Same thing as I pointed out in the unboxing. They're actually the same thickness because the scales on the titanium one are thinner because there's no liner, right? Even though the blade is thicker, right? This has thicker G10 scales that are accommodating for the liners and then a thinner blade. So it actually ends up being the same thickness. Interesting. All right. I think we've gotten through all of that. Let's go ahead and get into the review now that we're 14 minutes in. Ergonomically, this thing is just as comfortable as my titanium one or my full thickness one. I don't really notice the difference too much between these two. I would say because this guy's a little bit smaller, this guy's going to be more comfortable. The truth is I think even, as somebody who owns the 20 full-size 20s titanium and G10, this is going to be very ideal for a lot of people. Number one, because you still get that very comfortable, familiar kind of Hinderer XM18/Manix2 ergonomic thing going on, right? Very comfortable, nice chamfering going on, nice semi-aggressive texturing that's good on bare hands, but will also work with gloves really well, right? You're going to get that. You can choke up, right? A little close to the edge, and there's no guard, but you've got plenty of area where you can get a full knuckle in there, right? A full finger in there, and it's not going to... How do I finish that sentence? Anyways, it's fine. It's great. I like it. Kind of wish that this area right here, it's what I said about the larger ones when I reviewed them, right? Kind of wish that that wasn't there, or that it wasn't such a big hump. I'd kind of like to make use of this area back here if I want to choke back on it, but that's not the case, so okay, right? I think the shark's foot blade is probably going to be the best for EDC. That's kind of what I found out. I had two of these to begin with. I had the drop point and the shark's foot, and this guy gets used all the time, and I just love that blade. This thinner guy, a lot of people still think that this guy's, for whatever reason, too thick. I think that guy's fine. These guys, the full-size ones, yeah, they're awesome, and you feel, yeah, big old burly knife, but they're nowhere near as thin behind the edge. This is just going to be better for day-to-day use, right? I mean, some people might make use of a much thicker blade stock. I'm more of an enthusiast and collector. I pick stuff up like that because I like it, not because, my day-to-day requires that type of blade. Truthfully, this is massive overkill, but this blade is going to be more friendly when you're passing it through common materials like paper or cardboard or rope or rubber or wood or whatever we usually cut. The Amazon packaging. Filled with more knives, right? Yeah, it's going to be friendlier. We have a nice flat that carries out about 85% the length of the blade and a decent amount of room to drop down towards the edge. Now, it's still not a laser beam, but it is way, way thinner than the full size. Like, look at this. This is night and day. It is much, much thinner. It's just going to cut better. The thumb stud is a bit in the cutting path, much like its brothers, right? The same thing. But you still have plenty of room on the blade to, take advantage of stuff. So I, in a live stream, I kept trying to tell people, I was like, listen, guys, it's CPM D2. It's American Crucible D2. It's not the ingot form D2 that we're getting on some of the Chinese budget knives. I was wrong. I was totally wrong about that. And there's actually a video on the Demko Facebook group where Mr. Demko himself says it's not CPM D2, it's D2. So that was my fault. I was so sure that it was, and I can't remember where I picked that up, but I was so sure that it had been confirmed, and I just, got my information crossed. So that was my fault. It is D2. D2's great. It's a steel that we expect on a sub $70, $60 knife, right? That's where we're generally seeing it. So it's one of those things where people don't want to see it on a $300 or $350 knife like this. They don't want to, right? But a lot of those people equate total value to materials alone. A lot of people don't think about what they're saying before they start to complain. This knife factually costs so much to make that, if they were to charge $350 for it and, for the slim and put a different steel on it, it's much more expensive, right? The materials have their own cost, but much more of what goes into this knife, much more of the cost, the final cost has to do with how much time and machine work and, wear and tear it costs, like, because the machines that make this stuff, there's wear and tear, there's maintenance, right? Stuff like that, cost of running a business. That all goes into it. And again, Demko Knives is not our profits are mostly based on volume kind of company. No, they have to do things small batch. They're not Spyderco, Kershaw, CRKT, Gerber. They're not the same thing. We can't expect the same things from Demko. We can't expect the exact same type of pricing. It might make us mad. We might want to go outside and yell at the sky, but we can't expect the same thing, right? Especially with, inflation occurring across the board right now. It's everything. So yeah, now that being said, do I want D2 on a $350 knife? No, I don't. And some people are going to be okay with buying this, and some people like me are going to go, okay, I'm going to wait, and get it in a different blade material. Now, if this popped up at $350 and it was in S45VN or crew wear, well, yeah, no problem. That's me though, right? I know that those blade materials are more expensive, right? But again, it's not like, the crew wear blade is a $150 blade and a D2 blade is a $20 blade. No, definitely not. But again, there's a lot of other factors there. And my preference is going to be with a different blade steel, right? And there's enthusiast reasoning there. And then, it's like if I'm going to take this thing out and use it, the D2 would work just fine, right? I'm not saying that D2 won't treat me well and that this isn't a durable knife, because D2 is a plenty good composition for use. So is crew wear. But when it comes down to valuation of things and what I expect in certain price tiers as a knife collector, knife enthusiast, and somebody that has handled a whole bunch of knives and has a lot of opinions on this stuff, as I'm sure everybody watching, you all have, we're going to want different materials, right? That's going to be the case. And I'm sure that Demko will deliver, right? I don't think I need to say this. I don't think it's not like he's sitting there going, gosh, I wonder what Metal Complex thinks. No, I think he's ahead of the game. I think he knows what he's doing. So yeah. This knife is ever fidgety. And if you're wondering, does the weight of that blade affect the fidget factor, right? Because, this has the smaller guy, the 20.5 has the same shark lock and the same, essentially, at its core, the same fidget factor, right? But because we're dealing with a smaller overall knife, thinner, materials and different materials, right? It does have a different feel. Slightly less weight in the blade of this guy, but I could pick this thing up. I could be blindfolded, right? Not know anything about the existence of a slimmer version. I could pick this up and I could go, this is an American Demko. It's literally that similar, right? The blade is definitely thinner and there's a little bit less weight there, but this still feels largely exactly the same as this guy. The shark lock itself is a little bit thinner, right? But the overall dimensions of it, the size of it, the feel of it, the sound, everything, it really feels pretty much exactly the same as the larger guys. So there's no, there's no difference there. Sitting around and doing this with the shark lock is awesome. Just pull back. If you don't know, the shark lock is something that Andrew Demko himself designed. That's the same guy who designed the scorpion lock and the triad lock. So before we start arguing about which lock is stronger, just remember he invented all of them. So this was designed to be as strong or stronger than the triad lock. And it makes sense considering how the contact works. If you take this apart, you can see all the different points of contact and how it locks up. Yes, very strong. There's the coil spring, which is in the back of this shark lock, is surrounded completely on all sides by steel, either by the shark lock cage itself or the steel liners underneath. So it's not an omega spring situation where you have to worry about it snapping. It's not going to be the case, right? Kind of feels like a little trigger right here, and it works exceptionally well. Very fun to play with, to deploy. Your fingers aren't in the cutting path when you are, retracting it or when you're, disengaging the lock on the blade. Just great. Best lock in existence, in my opinion. Couple of standoffs. We do have the liners in here are the same. They're kind of, I want to call them cartridge liners. They're like 3/4 or like maybe half liners, or maybe even like a third. You can see how they go down to here. Basically just so everything like the bearings and the lock itself is sliding against steel or rubbing against steel and not G10, which is great, and it really doesn't need that much more structural integrity. At this thickness, the G10 is plenty durable, and it is at least backed up by some steel, so that's fine. Yes, these run on bearings. I'm curious if he'll ever do a phosphor bronze washer version of this, because I think, it would work really well. I don't think it necessarily needs the bearings to do this. I think, it really well-executed PB washer version of any of the AD-20s would work really well and would complement it, because washers do a better job of keeping dirt and debris out of the pivots. And, you know, people who go out and use these, yes, people definitely take these out and use them. There's plenty of evidence on the Demko users and collectors group on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's everywhere. Throw a rock in any direction, you'll find somebody who uses their, you know, their Demkos, even though they're kind of expensive or very expensive, right? But yeah, that would complement it better. So I think that would be kind of neat. I have no idea if there's plans for that in the future, though. Lanyard hole, okay, fine. A lot of people say, oh no, ambidextrous lock, but you can't take that pocket clip and just flip it over. It would be backwards, right? I believe Demko will just provide you with a left-handed clip if you ask for one. The 20.5s, I think, come with both clips, I think. And then these guys, like if you need a left-handed clip, he'll either give you one or sell you one cheap. I'm not really sure, but yeah, you can definitely mount it because it uses the same screws, the same screw holes as this side does for what, you know, goes into the standoffs. So there you go. I wish that there was a pad underneath these, and some of them have them, like I've seen the Grivery ones on the actual American AD-20s have the pads like this, where the pocket clip rests, and so it comes in and out of your pocket without fraying them up or rubbing against that tech string. And then the G10s ones just don't have it. I think, you know, in one sense, it's like it'd be kind of nice if it was there, but I also don't really like seeing it on the side where the clip is not mounted, so I'm kind of torn there. I think what would be better is if we did not have a clip that rose to such a shallow height, and then instead of continuously rising up, it still bends down, which I really don't like. Like the only real issue with this knife outside of, I really just wish this area back here was kind of shaved off a bit. The only issue I really have with this knife is the pocket clip. It's very Spyderco-y, like traditional Spyderco pocket clip. There we go. Wow, it's very, very similar to the Spyderco clip, and I just am not the biggest. It's okay, it works just fine. I mean, when it's in your pocket, it's not going anywhere, but getting it in and out is just kind of it's kind of frustrating. You can always see the steel marked right here, right? On some of the earlier ones, and especially custom ones, it's going to be more like, well, where is it? You can just barely, yeah, you can just barely make it out on this guy. It says right there, can you see it? Wonder if the flashlight will help. It's just carved in there on some of these older ones. There we go. Can you see it? There we go. Almost did it. 20 CV is what it's trying to say right there on my full-size version of it. Same way with the titanium one. It's just kind of carved in there. Can we see it? Just barely. 20 CV. There we go. Just like that. That's what you're going to see. And I think you definitely see it that way on the custom ones. But on this guy, it says D2. And on these, I don't know if it even says it on there. It says it right here. OS 10A, Taiwan. So, yeah. Lockup, completely and totally solid. No detent lash. And, well, it's not really a detent because it's just the, you know, the event horizon once the tension reaches, it goes past the peak, right? And then the coil spring goes back and this blade is sort of sucked down into the closed position. Centering on this guy is perfect. This guy, the guy that I carry, perfect. Titanium one, perfect. This one, the one that gets used all the time, perfect. All of these, great centering. The Demko AD-20 Slim, as it is too much money for what people want in this territory, right? $350. This territory attracts people who are going to use their knives. It attracts people who collect knives, and it attracts knife enthusiasts who look for certain materials at certain price points. D2 does not belong in this price territory. Now, if this was CPM D2, because a lot of people are going to yell, Medford, Medford! Medford uses CPM D2. That has been confirmed. I actually called in, spoke with their representatives. It's CPM D2, right? This is ingot D2. But yeah, everybody, you know, most, like some people are going to pick this up and go, you know, okay, whatever. And the truth is, if you pick this up for $350, you have an excellent tool. You have a tool with great fit and finish, the strongest lock, or, you know, potentially the strongest lock of any folding knife that exists. Incredible ease of manipulation, incredible, you know, just convenience and utility all the way around, great ergonomics. This is a wonderful tool. An expensive tool, but a wonderful tool that will likely treat you well for the rest of your life and perhaps whoever you pass it down to. But it's still D2, and we, you know, that's not what we want to see in this territory. I think it goes without saying that we just want a different steel, right? S45VN, Crewwear, MagnaCut, sure, you know, 20 CV, yeah, you know, sure, yeah. Depending on what you're going to use it for, right? There's different preferences. 3V, all the other stuff that he's been using. Yeah, and you know what? I think he'll eventually bring that to us. I'm not 100% convinced that we're going to get it in G10. You know, it's not like he's going to go, yeah, I'll give you that same steel and it's going to be $350. No, it'll likely be more money, right? Now, you know, as we've seen with the bigger boys, you might get something like 20 CV Engrivery for $350, right? Which is fine. It's also plenty durable. It just feels a bit cheaper than G10, right? We're going to get the materials we want across the board eventually. That's what I foresee. Whether it's the 20.5, the AD-20 Slim, the full-size AD-20 or the full-size AD-20 in titanium, or any weird sub-versions, right? We're probably going to get a smaller titanium one, right? Maybe we're going to get a full-size Slim that's titanium, different blade shapes, different blade finishes, different blade material. We're going to get all of that stuff. What we're not going to get collectively is a price that we can all agree on. A lot of us are going to go, you know what? At that exact version of it. In fact, this is what a lot of people are going to say. A lot of people who are legitimately interested in buying a knife in this territory and maybe specifically interested in a Demko AD-20 are going to say, I would pay for it if it was in exactly the materials that I wanted. I want G10, I want Crewwear, I want a Slim, I want a Shark's Foot with the slot. And then you can charge me blah, 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 whatever the, you know, whatever the price is that comes out for that knife, right? And yeah, I think that's what he's trying to do. It's not like he's trying to, you know, obviously Demko Knives is expanding. They're trying to do all this different thing. He's not trying to just go, this is all we're going to do. We're only going to make this knife like this. We're only going to make these, right? I'm just going to jam this down everybody's throat. No, it looks like he's trying to make as many as he can, many different variants as he can, so that people can find the one that they want, right? Get that perceived value. Remember selling used cars, right? It comes down to, you know, whether or not that vehicle is going to work for that person. You know, let's say they're looking for a Jeep. They're looking for a Jeep Wrangler, which is, Demko AD-20.5, I could see Jeep Wrangler, you know, if we're going to compare it to a car. Most people, if they're hunting down a specific used Jeep Wrangler, would rather pay more money and get exactly what they want with exactly the right options than pay less money or even substantially less money with none of the options they want, right? If somebody's looking for a Sahara or a Rubicon or a Hard Rock Rubicon or whatever, well, they'd rather pay more for that than pay less for a base Wrangler. That's just how it is, right? Somebody seeking out a base Wrangler is not going to want to pay more money for the Rubicon. No, they're going to want to pay less money for the base Wrangler, right? So that's obviously a lot of people watching this right now are going to go, duh, yeah. But that seems to me like what Demko is trying to do. Now, I don't have any inside information. I am not a knife maker. I don't buy and sell materials. I don't make knives. I'm not a professional in any aspect. This is all just my opinion, my perspective, right? It's also based on reading your guys' comments since I first did a video on any of the Demkos. So Anyways, as per usual, of course, everybody's welcome to have their own perspective and own opinion. I definitely don't want to make anybody think that you have to think exactly like me and share the same perspective. No, I'm just giving you my opinion, my thoughts on this stuff. I think the AD-20 Slim is cool, but I think for me, it needs to have... I'm not so much ultra concerned with, like, it needs to be less expensive and have better materials. No, I'm going to be realistic and say, okay, it just needs to have better materials in this territory, right? It needs to have the materials that we prefer as knife enthusiasts, collectors, and users in this territory. So, if you're going to go after a Demko at the moment, I know they're hard to hunt down. The full-size ones or the 20.5s are the best deals, right? Anyways, that's going to be pretty much it today. I do appreciate Keith sending this in for me to take a look at. This was fun. I'm glad I got an opportunity to talk about this. But that's going to be pretty much it today. So please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do not like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.